Kaylee Ober is a senior advocate and program manager for the Climate Displacement program at Refugees International. She joins me now from Tucson, Arizona, to talk about that aspect, but the broader aspects as well. And I guess the lost in the noise, if you like, of migrant arrivals is the push of what's making them have to leave their homes in the first place versus the pull of the US as a destination. And there are myriad reasons. What do you see as the main ones?
Look, it's as you said, due to many, many reasons, and climate change is exacerbating some of them. I think principally it's one of poverty, endemic violence in the region, and corruption of governments who aren't able to address that violence. It's really about being able to seek out opportunities elsewhere that are not readily available in places where these folks are coming from.
Yeah, and I met many of these migrants covering the crisis on the ground, people from Honduras, Nicaragua, Guatemala, El Salvador and so on. And the stories they told me about gang violence, murdered family members, government corruption and so on are horrifying. I mean, I'm not surprised they'd want to flee. Most people would. I found most of them didn't want to leave their homes and countries, but felt they have no other choice. Is that your experience?
I think that's by and large true with any sort of migration decision. It's heart-wrenching, it's difficult. And look, you know, at the very heart of it is a human decision. You know, you have families back home, your family back home. It's a dangerous journey. You know the perils that you might face. It's very expensive, thousands of dollars, your life savings. So it's not an easy choice.
Yeah, exactly. It's not something you jump up in the morning and say you're going to do. Now, your specialty is the impact of climate change, and on that issue and the weather changes that climate change has resulted in, I mean, things like stronger hurricanes, crop failures, hunger, to entire areas, I think it's true, becoming pretty much uninhabitable. Can you see growing climate migration or displacement quite apart from these other reasons?
So I want to put something out there, and that's that climate change is never the driving or sole factor for migration. As we just discussed, it's very complicated and complex. What it does do is exacerbate underlying vulnerabilities. And we can see that, you know, weather patterns are changing. The climate is really intensifying and making more frequent different types of climate impacts, including, like we just saw this past year with hurricanes Eta and Iota. You know, a 1-2 punch within 2 weeks of each other, quite unprecedented in an already history-making hurricane season. You know, the most recorded hurricanes on record in the Atlantic hurricane season. And so these sorts of events will continue to occur. But I just want to underscore that already the region was dealing with a slow onset event of prolonged and protracted drought, especially in the dry corridor. And so it made it especially hard for rural farmers to earn a living, right? So it was already hard to harvest crops, and they were already on the edge before these these hurricanes even hit.
So what then can the US do to help change those dreadful conditions on the ground and perhaps encourage people to stay at home? There were programs in place which Donald Trump eliminated. Biden says he'll reinstate. Are they enough? What more needs to be done?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's important to note what you said at the top of this interview, which is most people don't want to leave. And so it's about giving folks opportunities and the tools to be able to stay in the face of a changing climate. And so it's very important that the U.S. continue to invest in humanitarian assistance and development aid, in particular when it comes to climate change adaptation and resilience, to allow folks to adapt in place if they desire to do so. But I think we have to be realistic here. The climate is changing upon these other factors and just exacerbating them, and people will have to migrate. People are already on the move. And so the U.S. have to be a little bit more innovative and, yes, roll back some of the draconian Trump policies in place, which, you know, President Biden has promised to do. I think, importantly, one part that he's already restarted is the Central American Minors Program, allowing young folks in Central American countries to apply to join their family members who are already in the U.S. legally. And under the Obama administration, about 3,000 minors were able to come to the U.S. that way, and 2,500 were slated to come before Trump cut that program. And so that would be one way, but the U.S. has to find new legal ways, new legal migration pathways for people who need to come in the face of a changing climate.
Yeah, very important issues, and I think people think that everyone's just packing up in Latin America and heading this way, and for no good reason. There are very good reasons. Kaylee Ober, great to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.